1902 saw the introduction of the first Norton motorcycle in Britain. It was the infancy of motorcycle racing. The Norton racing tradition would eventually give birth to many legendary machines. One would take the drag racing world by storm. This Norton was not conceived at the factory. This Norton was not even designed in Britain. This Norton was different in nearly every way. This Norton was the Hogslayer. This is the story of the legendary Hogslayer and how it took command of the motorcycle drag racing world. TC Christenson and John Gregory, bench racing at its best, from the original Sunset Motors.
Well, my first experience on a real drag race was at the Union Grove drag strip, and I had this hot rod street bike. The fastest thing at that race was actually a Vincent Black Shadow. And it gets down, that whole race got down to just me and that Vincent Black Shadow. We wind them things out. He shifts in a second, he misses second gear. I hit them all, I'm gone. I win the whole thing.
TC was a good rider to start with, and I helped him hone his skills of getting off the line. He concentrated on being the world's best rider, which I think he was. I mean, I don't think anybody was better than him any place or any time after we went pro, or even before, as far as that goes.
Me and John actually were pretty much teamed up to do this racing gig, and he was pretty much the brains behind all this equipment and stuff.
Motorcycle Weekly wrote, "Humiliation on the strips is what Tom Christenson inflicted on the rest of the world's dragsters. More than 3 miles a minute from a dead start in a mere quarter mile. It's difficult to imagine if you haven't seen it." Cycle World wrote, "John Gregory's abundant talents for imaginative engineering have produced the dazzling machines that launched TC Christenson on record-making rides. In charge of design and construction, John has created unique components, remarkable for their performance as well as their dependability." Unbridled courage.
Columbus, Ohio. And I get out there, get on the line, racing against another Harley guy. We blast off the line, I launch hard. So I shift into high gear and I wind that thing up about 1,100 feet off. Then I roll the throttle off and this bike goes into a death wobble. It's one of those wobbles that you know it's all over.
But that was kind of scary. I wasn't up where I could see him close.
It goes to this big shake, it breaks off both of the steering stops. I mean, snaps him right off the frame like nothing.
We figured that the forks got into a shake so bad that it broke the fork stops and the fork turned sideways.
Keeps continuous on this big, it's going left to right, it's so hard, it's going in this big shake.
Next thing I seen the bike going back and forth, and he was like a rag doll on top of it, flapping back and forth. And
the front wheel is actually going sideways, it's throwing smoke into the fairing. I didn't even know what was going on. So just before I'm at a point where this bike's gonna pitch me off, I nailed the throttle, I grab a handful, the bike goes, comes in a big arc, straightens itself up. I'm getting lined up with the clocks. I can see the clocks. I'm straight on the drag strip, and I said, "This is the time to get off."
Next thing he went down, the bike went one way and he went the other, you know.
Bang, I'm falling on my back. The bike's on my foot. I do a half donut, kick the bike off my foot, go shoot through the clocks at 150 miles an hour, smoking leathers, through the clocks. Bike comes through about 10 feet behind me at 149 and a half. So I slide on my stomach, then I slide on my back. I slide on my side, and I slide on that side. Then I'm saying to myself, geez, I'm going to go off the end of the track pretty soon. I've been out here sliding for half an hour now. And I finally come to a stop in a fetal position, holding. And then I'm smoking. I mean, I was so hot, the leathers were burning me. Later, I moved my neck a little bit. So I moved my back. Wow, cool. Hey, I got away with that one.
Pretty sad deal. I mean, I was really happy to see that he was walking. We just took him to the hospital and we kind of patched him up and we took him home.
The guy we raced against was watching the whole thing. And every time I see that guy on another track, he'd come up, "TC, that was the greatest ride I've ever seen. You were up, you were down, you were sliding, you were gone." Said, that was it.
Unrivaled innovation.
It was just a combination of a lot of technically advanced equipment.
So that's when I developed the 2-speed. All you had to do was push the pedal and it would shift.
So we were one of the first bikes that actually went with a fat wheel.
We widened the frame out and put an 8-inch tire in the back.
Space age with chromoly frame, fuel injected, slipper clutches, 2-speed automatics.
We basically had to tune that nitro bike like it was a street bike.
It was all stuff that people didn't know, had none of that at all. And that bike had all that stuff and it all working perfectly.
So the 3-speed was our next move. Actually, we didn't need it.
Unyielding challengers.
We went to pretty much all the big drag strips in the country that everybody hears about on TV where the NHRA was. We went to Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Indianapolis for the U.S. Nationals, and Ontario, California with the Super Nationals World Championship. We went out there and won it 4 times.
You talk about something wild. Have a look. They really burn it, don't they?
We won just about every race in the country multiple times. Then we went to England, and that was pretty impressive. I mean, TC revolutionized drag racing in Europe. You go out there and do about an 8-mile burnout, and they just freaked. They couldn't believe it.
You were the fastest man on 2 wheels in the world. You're still the fastest man on 2 wheels in Europe. Tom, can you tell us something about the design of the bike, and particularly the engines?
Well, the 2 750 Norton engines, which are made over here in Britain, and they're running about 150 horse apiece, which is probably 300 horse between them.
Well, the biggest thing at the racetrack always was the Harley Davidson. They were actually the king of the drag strips and stuff. And so the Hogslayer was built, and we're going to race it, and then we call it the Hogslayer and challenge the Harley Davidson. We were sitting in a shop in Kenosha, Wisconsin, as they call it, in the shadow of the mighty Harley Davidson factory, and we're consistently beating off these Harleys. It wasn't just once in a while. We actually ran the records and beat these guys off for about almost 4 years in a row there. Yeah, actually, the R&D, research and development guys actually put a sign up in their research department that says, "Get the Hogslayer." One thing about that bike, anybody's ever seen it run, never forgot it. It was such a spectacle, what it did and how it did it, you know.
Hogslayer, the documentary.